Good morning, ladies, or whenever you're viewing this video. I'll be taking us through our devotional today. Our passage is found in John 4, and it's about the Samaritan woman. You'll see me looking over here because I'm looking at my notes. I'm not going to read through the whole passage, but I want to encourage you to read it for yourself. It is such a powerful story. There is a lot there that we don't have time to go into. But in summary, in John 4, Jesus travels through Samaria and stops at Jacob's well, where he meets a Samaritan woman who's drawing water in the middle of the day. And Jesus initiates a conversation with her, asking for a drink. And as they talk, Jesus shifts, the conversation from um, physical water to living water. And he names the woman's life story, including her broken relationships. And in response, the woman recognizes him as a prophet, and she engages um, him in a theological conversation about worship. Jesus then reveals himself to be the Messiah, and the woman leaves her water jar, returns to her town, and tells others about Jesus through her testimony, and many Samaritans come to believe. And so in John 4:4, John tells us that Jesus had to go through Samaria. And so to help build context, geographically, Samaria sits in between Judea in the south and Galilee in the north. And culturally and religiously, it was a place most Jews avoided. Centuries of hostility existed between Jews and Samaritans, disagreements over scripture, worship, ethnicity, and identity. And so the Jews would take the longer route around Samaria, and that would tag on a whole day of travel uh, just to avoid the Samaritans. And, they would rather do that than risk contamination, right, by association. But it says that Jesus, he went through Samaria. And when we read the story of the Samaritan woman, we notice Jesus doing at least three scandalous things. He breaks traditional norm by going through. He is a Jewish man who is also a rabbi speaking to a woman, a Samaritan woman. So now Jesus is breaking moral, racial, gender, and religious barriers. And he meets with her alone in the middle of the day at the well. And so the middle of the day at the well, that detail matters because noon was the hottest part of the day when no one came to draw water, and women usually came together either in the cool of the morning or the evening to draw water. But this woman comes alone. And so the text never actually says that she's prostituted herself or had affairs. I think that's commonly read into the text, but I'd like to offer another possibility, which is um, with the mortality rate of people being really low, she could have lost 5 husbands to death, and the final one she's with is her late husband's brother, since it was custom for the younger brother to take his older brother's widow, since women were vulnerable during that time and needed protecting. Or maybe she was childless, and her shame was that she couldn't bear any children. In any case, she was alone. And she is alone in her shame and silent. And Jesus met her there and speaks to her, breaking the silence by asking her, "Will you give me a drink?" And in that moment, we read Jesus returning dignity to her class, her gender, and race through conversation. Jewish people historically regarded the Samaritans as less than dogs, so lesser value. They'd treat their dogs better than they would a Samaritan person. And so not only does Jesus go to an outcast people, but he goes to the outcast of outcasts, which this is totally on brand for Jesus. God has chosen throughout the Bible to go to the lowly or the overlooked. And here he is now with her. And he's not ashamed to be seen with her or to carry an equal conversation with her. As the conversation unfolds, Jesus names her life. Like he starts to talk to her about her own life story, not to shame her, but to locate her story within truth. He brings into the light what has been kept, what has kept her in the shadows, right? In essence, he has wrapped the whole encounter with the Samaritan woman with the good news because he crushes racial, gender, religious barriers. He tells her all about her life. Um, and so now she feels seen, and he offers her a new way of living, um, with living water. And that by the time he reveals to her that he is the Messiah, it's an all-encompassing experience for her, and she gets it. And we see too that the first one to be told by Jesus plainly that he is the Messiah is a woman, and she's the first evangelist. And because it's carried through the testimony of her life, many come to believe in Jesus. She is sent. She is a sent one, having been fully seen by the Messiah, and now she has a voice. And so the redemptive work of Christ breaks through the barriers upheld by a broken world and draws us into the reconciling work of the gospel. In him, we are made one, not divided by worldly constructs, but united by the Spirit as a new people. The Samaritan woman offers us both a model and an invitation, which is to join Jesus in his redemptive mission and to carry the good news of who he is into the world. And so I want to end our time with a reflection. When she leaves her water jar behind, because that's what it records it, saying like she leaves her water jar behind and goes into the town, it's a sign that her survival no longer depends on the old systems that defined her. She now carries living water, something no one can take from her. And so here's the reflection question that I want to leave us with today. Where might Christ be inviting you to let go of a label, barrier, or story that has shaped how you see yourself or how you believe others see you? And do you see the invitation of Jesus to join him in the mission of spreading the good news?